I've been in left new media for about a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And one of the things that everybody in new media proclaims themselves to be media critics. Because you can't give political analysis on any number of issues without also addressing how the media in general covers those issues. Because the media, probably more than anything, shapes people's opinions on almost every issue. On literally every issue, actually. But the difference I see in myself, and definitely all the larger hosts in new media, the hosts that have the biggest shows and biggest channels, get the most views and all that stuff, is that when I say I'm a media critic, I'm consistent. And when I see people in the media, whether it's mainstream media or independent media, misleading their audience, lying, being disingenuous, just factually incorrect, or just pushing harmful positions, I'm going to criticize it. I'm going to point it out. I'm going to say how stupid it is. I don't care if you're on the left. I don't care if you're on the right. I don't care if you're in the middle. I don't care if you're on corporate media. I don't care if you're at a print outlet. I don't care if you're hosting independent media, new media online. If you say something worthy of criticism, I will criticize you. But for some reason, some of the bigger, more prominent names in left new media think that media criticism only applies to corporate media. Those are the only people who are really fucking up. Those are the only people who say things that are worth criticism. So that's why you see Kyle Kulinski or Crystal Ball, all those bigger names, they would, anytime there's a viral moment of Jake Tapper lying about Medicare for all, or Chris Cuomo saying something stupid about raising taxes on the rich, Rachel Maddow lying about Russiagate. When it's those things, people in new media have no problem taking a clip of it and doing a whole 12-minute video on their channel about it, lambasting whoever the host is that said this ridiculous thing and giving them scathing criticism. But when it's their friends in new media making equally outlandish and outrageous comments on their shows, suddenly nobody has the same energy. And this has become a huge problem in left media because it's not just small issues that they're avoiding criticizing. It's huge defining issues for the left. And people like Cenk Uygur and the whole Young Turks network and like David Pakman are, or they're just dead wrong on these issues. And since there's never any real effort to reconcile these two wildly different positions on the left, you have huge, giant people, like percentages of their audiences believing shit that is nowhere near true. And since they don't see other people in new media who they respect pushing back on these absurd positions, a lot of them don't question it for themselves and dig into it for themselves and see how ridiculous it is. The biggest, most obvious example was this whole Russiagate, Ukrainegate, impeachment, conspiracy nonsense. It is appalling that so many people on the left got duped into repeating and believing unfounded propagandistic claims from the intelligence community, from the CIA and the FBI, outlandish conspiracy theories. I really believe if the more prominent anti-Russiagators in left new media, like Crystal Ball or Kyle Kulinski or Jimmy Dore, were actually criticizing their friends in the left new media as harshly as they were criticizing Rachel Maddow, if they were showing the clips of Cenk pushing deranged, unfounded conspiracy theories as if they were a fact, and if they were as serious about discrediting Cenk as they were about discrediting Rachel Maddow on the issue, I really think a lot of the Young Turks audience, which is huge, they have 4 million subscribers on YouTube, I really do think a lot of their audience would have had pause and would have had that thought, like, oh, well, wow, Cenk sounded really convinced and like he knew this was true when he said it, but now that Kyle breaks it down that way, Cenk sounds ridiculous and I can't believe him on this issue. I think there would have been a lot more people who had that reckoning, I think that would have been more effective than just attacking mainstream media and just completely ignoring the endless Russiagate coverage from Cenk Uygur. Cenk, I swear to fucking God, between Cenk and David Pakman, 80% of the content that they would produce in a day or in a week was, if it wasn't just explicitly Trump, Russia, it was some negative Trump story. So it just turned into a hub of hacky anti-Trump content on the left that made people lose their fucking minds. And I really think if people like Kyle and even Jimmy, who've been great on this issue, if they were to step out of their comfort zone and go beyond just subtweeting or even replying to a ridiculous Russiagate tweet or making a little side comment or a subtle jab in the last 3 minutes of a 20-minute Russiagate video at Cenk or at David Pakman for doing this shit. If they actually criticized them, took clips of this show and show how ridiculous they were on this issue, just like they did with Rachel Maddow, I think that would have moved more people on the left to being more skeptical of Russiagate. Now, Russiagate was the biggest and most irrefutable example of this, in my opinion, because it was a 4-year-long, never-ending, red-baiting conspiracy theory, completely unfounded, no evidence at all, and everybody's just taking the word of the FBI and the CIA, and even the people on the left did that. So I find Russiagate to be the clearest example of how these so-called media critics in new media completely let their friends off the hook. And the crazy part, it's not just this. Like I said at the beginning of the video, these people have turned around and basically become wrong on every single major issue over the last few years. So when Cenk and TYT took $20 million from a huge mega donor to the Democratic Party back in 2015 or 2016, that should have drew the ire of everybody in new media. Everybody who claims to be a media critic, they should have pounced on that, because what's the whole point of new media, independent media? Corporate media is too beholden to the people that they're supposed to be holding accountable to do any real political analysis that is from the perspective of the working class or regular people in this country. So we need to move away from that model, and we need to be funded by the audience, so that we don't ever have to worry about a conflict of interest or even the appearance of a conflict of interest, or worry about the direction of content being changed in a way that's more favorable to corporations or the establishment or people in power. That was the whole point of independent media. So when Cenk Uygur and TYT takes $20 million from a giant mega donor to the Democratic Party, I don't understand how that isn't a giant fucking issue. I don't understand how Kyle Kulinski and Jimmy Dore don't think that's worth a whole segment with scathing criticism. And to this day, when Cenk does some real questionable shit, like sending out that email for Joe Biden, or all these other weird things that he inexcusable things that he does that affect the content that's being produced on the Young Turks network. When all that shit happens, they still won't even bring up the $20 million and say that might have actually had effect on them. And Kyle Kulinski will still come out and act like, oh no, $20 million didn't bias TYT's coverage. It didn't make them worse, even though clearly their content got worse after they took their money. Oh no, they're just wrong about this, they're wrong about that, wrong about that, wrong about everything. But there's just small disagreements. We could be on the left and we could disagree. So I'm not going to really say anything about it. I'm not going to criticize it. So I think that's, again, being hypocritical. And a lot of these examples I have are of the Young Turks because, like I said, the biggest online, quote, progressive news outlet in the world. So when they're doing a bunch of fucked up shit and the other people in left new media ignore it, I think it's a problem. So again, like I have a whole list of fucked up shit from TYT that's been ignored. TYT and Cenk Uygur's clear pro-Elizabeth Warren bias is something that nobody else in new media wants to talk about. Even though it's pervasive it goes, the rot is deep, and you can see it in all the content that they do that have to do with Elizabeth Warren. And no matter how much she makes clear where she stands in this civil war for the Democratic Party with the centrists, with the establishment, with the corporate Democrats, they'll still come out and pretend like she's the most solid fucking progressive on the block. That's what TYT does. You remember right after the 2016 primary, when they had, or the 2016 election, when they had Elizabeth Warren come into TYT studio, they did a whole softball interview with her and let her skate on so much shit. When she said that she was against primarying Joe Manchin, when she said when she was asked about why didn't she pick Bernie over Hillary, oh, it was such a great primary. Oh, it was such a great battle of ideas. Oh, it was so great to see them going back and forth with the ideas and who had the better plans. All the while ignoring the fact that Hillary Clinton's a corporatist tool. All the while ignoring the fact that she literally got caught red-handed in broad daylight rigging the election. And what was Cenk? No pushback on that. Where was the criticism from Kyle and from Jimmy and others in left new media, Mike Figueredo at the Humanist Report? Where were they criticizing Cenk for his softball interview, clearly doing it so that he can maintain access with Elizabeth Warren? That's another huge criticism that independent media has of corporate media. The softball interviews to maintain access to politicians and other people in the establishment. That's clearly what Cenk was doing with Elizabeth Warren. Not a fucking peep about it. But if they see Aaron Burnett or Breonna Keeler doing some softball interview on CNN, oh, you be damn sure they're going to do a whole segment on this show about it. That's what I'm saying. Inconsistent, and they're hypocrites. And then this weird dynamic between TYT and Elizabeth Warren continued into the primary season. Whole fucking primary pretending like Elizabeth Warren is just like Bernie Sanders. Oh, they both believe in the same exact policies or whatever. Even though Elizabeth Warren was to the right on Bernie Sanders on every single policy issue. Even though Elizabeth Warren has a record of selling out the left. Oh man, I can't tell between her and Bernie which one's better. I mean, I don't know. David Pakman was in on it too. David Pakman, the entire primary went without saying that Bernie Sanders was better than Elizabeth Warren. He couldn't choose who was better, who was the best candidate running in the race. And then TYT, I guess the smallest amount of credit, at least Cenk Uygur, deep into the primary, finally came out and said, did this whole thing where he was pretending like he couldn't choose between Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, and then he finally says, okay, Bernie Sanders is the candidate that I prefer. But I mean, the whole false equivalency, and that did play a huge role in this fucking theater that was going on amongst people on the actual left, where some people were pretending like Elizabeth Warren was an actual lefty. She actually supported Medicare for all. She actually wanted to end the war. She actually wanted to do left policies, when she didn't. And then there was this whole fake debate about, oh, who's better, Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, that carried out throughout the entire fucking primary. And instead of getting to the root of that, calling out the bullshit from the Young Turks trying to be fake neutral, and calling out the bullshit from David Pakman trying to be fake neutral, everybody just let it slide, and they made their own arguments on their show why they think Bernie Sanders is better. But they didn't point out how ridiculous the position of Cenk Uygur and TYT was. They let that shit slide, and like I said, since the people in their audience don't see any real pushback on Cenk's ideas, a lot of them think, oh, he must be right. Speaking of the primary, the inexcusable smearing of Tulsi Gabbard. Now, my opinion of Tulsi Gabbard clearly has changed in the last few months, endorsing Joe Biden, really not calling out the leadership of the Democratic Party for their complete fucking failure in the response to the coronavirus and the economic crisis. So I lump Tulsi Gabbard into the useless as the rest of them category. That being said, while the primary was going on, she was clearly the most vocally against military intervention in countries around the world. Clearly, even more so than Bernie Sanders. And all these people, David Pakman, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, John Idarola, even Michael Brooks, I mean, he's not here to defend himself, but he damn sure was doing it. Sam Cedar, all smearing Tulsi Gabbard at the top of their fucking lungs. Even recycling some of the trashy, shitty smears that the mainstream media was trying to hit her with, that she's an Assad apologist and shit like that. When the largest, quote, progressive news outlet in the world has made it their goal to come down on Tulsi Gabbard, the most non-interventionist candidate in the race, and smear her relentlessly. Where was Kyle Kulinski? Where was Jimmy Dore? I'm not saying that they didn't defend Tulsi Gabbard, but they didn't push back on this weird position that their other friends in new media was taking. And I that also had a huge effect on discourse in the left when it came to the primary. Because Tulsi Gabbard, to a lot of people who support left policies, they pretended like she was a fucking boogeyman and she was secretly working with Trump and she's a Putin puppet and a Assad apologist and all that shit. But when CNN or MSNBC was smearing Tulsi Gabbard, Kyle Kulinski was quick to cut a clip of it and do a fucking 20-30 minute video blasting them for their clear smears. But when Cenk was doing it, when Anna Kasparian was doing it, the whole Young Turks network, David Pakman was doing it, you didn't see a fucking clip of it on his show. You didn't hear him come out and call him out by name on his show over it. You're noticing a theme here. And one last point I want to make. David Pakman, wrong about almost everything, but this case was particularly egregious. When the U.S. with the whole Juan Guaido thing happened, where we were literally trying to stage a coup in Venezuela and pretending like Juan Guaido, this fucking rando, was the president of the country. When that was happening and it was clear that we were doing it, trying to overthrow the government for oil yet again, and it was being proven time and time again. Even John Bolton came out on TV and said, yeah, we're doing this for the U.S. oil interests. He even said that on a Fox Business or some shit like that. So it was as clear can be that this was yet again another illegal U.S. military or U.S. intervention, covert this time, with the CIA and the State Department, trying to overthrow a government to steal natural resources, like we've done dozens of times in Latin America, and we've done in the Middle East, and we've done in Africa. So it's not like, oh, this was some brand new thing that we've never seen before. It was just one of the times it was happening right in front of our eyes. While that was happening, I remember explicitly David Pakman coming out on his show, more than one video, talking about how the left is just out trying to defend Maduro and they're dictator lovers, and Maduro's a bad guy, and Juan Guaido, we don't know what he's gonna do. He's better than Nicolas Maduro or some shit like that. And at one point he literally said, he tried to smear the left, who was calling out the coup from the beginning, and said, quote, there's some conspiracy theorists on the left who think that this upheaval in Venezuela is some sort of U.S. coup attempt to steal the oil, and that's ridiculous. That's what David Pakman was saying. All while repeating the fucking CIA State Department talking points about, oh my God, Maduro's so bad. Look at Maduro. He did this and this and this and this. He's so bad. So obviously, the logical conclusion is somebody got to get rid of him. And then while that was happening, did Kyle Kulinski call out David Pakman? Nope. Did he do a video making a clip of David Pakman clearly dead wrong on this issue? Nope. But he sure did call out other hosts in media, most namely corporate media, who are pushing the CIA State Department talking points on this issue, and he railed against them. But David Pakman, hands off. He's my friend. I don't want to, get into that. So like I said, this position that all these big hosts in new media have taken, which is, I'm just not going to criticize my friend, it is problematic. It is seriously problematic. And just on the face, it makes no sense. They all do a bunch of videos criticizing hosts on Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC, writers at print outlets. They criticize them when their content is ridiculous. They criticize them when their content is problematic and outrageous and full of misinformation and being incredibly disingenuous. They do hours and hours of content around that. So why do you think that new media is immune from bad takes? Why do you think, oh, it's not worth me doing a video criticizing them for their shitty takes? And they'll give a million and one bullshit excuses for why they don't criticize their friends in new media. Some of them are favorites. Oh, we don't want to divide the left. Oh my God, you guys are being so divisive. You are, quote, eating your own. You guys, this is why we could never win. All that bullshit. But isn't it funny how when the corporate Democrats accuse them of trying to divide the left whenever they criticize MSNBC, whenever they criticize corporate Democrats, when it's in that scenario, oh, they have no problem criticizing them. In fact, they say that it makes the left stronger when you have these criticisms, when you have these disagreements out in the open for everyone to see. It makes the left stronger. That's the argument they make when they're being accused of being divisive and dividing the left. But when it comes to their friends in new media, oh no, that's when you can't criticize them. That's when the public criticism. Come on, guys, chill with that. Are you trying to be divisive? What's going on here? Do you want to lose? Like, come the fuck on. Come on. And it's amazing how quick they go from being bombastic truth tellers who are gonna say whatever they're feeling, whatever they're thinking, unapologetic, and they don't give a fuck who it offends when it comes to criticizing people they don't like. But when it comes to criticizing their friends, they become the biggest advocates for civility politics. You can't be too divisive. You can't upset them, or you can't get on their bad side or offend them or any way. So let's just completely ignore all the shitty things that they're doing at their shows. All these people who call themselves, quote, media critics, if they see the value in criticizing corporate media and pointing out their mistakes and pointing out how they're wrong, I don't know how that same logic doesn't apply to new media. Because they're wrong a lot. There's some people wrong on every major issue. But they have this cognitive dissonance because it's their friend, and that's really all it comes down to. That's really all it comes down to. And they'll tell you, one of the more annoying parts for me is, on top of just not criticizing their friends in new media, they're going to, they act like these things don't add up. And they act like at some point you don't start questioning the credibility and whether or not people should be listening to these hosts. That doesn't factor in for them at all. And in fact, Kyle will still go recommend people to go watch The Young Turks and to watch David Pakman. Even though they're wrong about all this shit, even though they're wrong about more shit than I could put into this video. Oh, something, they're my friend. They say they're on the left. So everybody just go watch their show and go be misinformed about Russiagate. Go ahead and be misinformed about the Democratic primary. Go ahead and listen to some smears about Tulsi Gabbard and let somebody tell you that Elizabeth Warren is super progressive and she wants to give you Medicare for all. Go ahead and listen to all them because they're my friends. Like, the disconnect, it's astounding. And I would love for somebody to address this, but they won't.